Close your eyes for just a second and picture a scene with me. Imagine a samurai standing completely alone on a mist-shrouded battlefield. The odds facing him are impossibly stacked against his favor. His armor is battered from previous skirmishes, his breathing is heavy, his muscles are aching, and a literal storm is gathering on the dark horizon. Yet if you look closely at his hands, his grip on his katana remains entirely unwavering. If you look into his eyes, they are perfectly clear, completely devoid of the panic that would consume most of us. You see, this warrior is not relying on sheer brute strength or some desperate hope for blind luck. He is anchored by something far more profound and unbreakable. He is anchored by an indomitable will, a mindset forged in the relentless fires of discipline and guided by an ancient, unwavering code. This code is Bushido, the way of the warrior. Now, you might be thinking, what does a feudal Japanese warrior have to do with my life today? The era of the samurai has long since faded into the mists of history, but I am here to tell you that the philosophy that governed their lives, the mindset that kept them alive, remains profoundly, urgently relevant. Today, our battlefields look very different. We aren't fighting with swords on open plains. Instead, our battlefields are the sterile, quiet hospital waiting rooms where we wait for a diagnosis. They are the high-pressure boardrooms where careers are made or broken. They are the deeply silent, invisible struggles of mental health that so many face alone. They are the crushing weight of sudden financial ruin, the heartbreaking end of a marriage, or the devastating, paralyzing sting of a personal failure. Our modern world is chaotic, yet the adversity we face today requires the exact same psychological armor that samurai wore centuries ago. By understanding and applying the core tenets of Bushido, we can actually forge a modern willpower so resilient, so fiercely protective, that absolutely no adversity can break us. Let me tell you an old story about the concept of the immovable mind. There is a tale of a legendary aging swordsman who was suddenly challenged to a duel by a brash, highly aggressive younger rival. As they faced each other in the courtyard, sizing each other up, a sudden and violent earthquake shook the ground beneath their feet. The young challenger immediately panicked. He dropped his fighting stance, his eyes darted around frantically, and he desperately looked for cover, entirely forgetting the duel. The master, however, did not move a single solitary muscle. His breathing remained as steady as the ticking of a clock. His blade remained perfectly aligned with his opponent's chest. When the violent tremors finally subsided, the young man looked at the master and realized he was utterly defeated by his own internal fear. He bowed his head in shame and walked away without a single strike being thrown. The master possessed what the Japanese call Fudoshin, an immovable mind. Fudoshin is the ultimate, highest manifestation of samurai willpower. It is a state of total equanimity where the mind is neither paralyzed by sudden fear nor clouded by hot, reactive anger. Think about your own life. When adversity strikes, when the car breaks down, when you lose your job, when someone betrays you, our initial human instinct is almost always panic, despair, or rage. We allow the earthquake of the situation to completely dictate our internal emotional state. Applying Fudoshin to your life means actively cultivating the ability to stand firmly in the absolute center of the storm. It means you acknowledge the chaos swirling furiously around you, but you actively refuse to let that chaos penetrate your inner sanctuary. You cannot control the earthquake. You cannot control the economy, the actions of others, or the sudden onset of illness, but you retain absolute, undeniable sovereignty over your reaction to it. But how do we build this? True samurai willpower is not about being a reckless, aggressive fighter. It is deeply, inextricably rooted in moral character. Bushido is built upon 7 core virtues. When you adopt these virtues as a modern operating system for your mind, they provide a foolproof roadmap for overcoming any hardship. Let's start with G, or righteousness and integrity. When we are facing severe, crushing adversity, the temptation to take the easy way out is incredibly overwhelming. We want to compromise our values just to make the pain stop. We want to point fingers and blame others for our misery. G demands profound honesty and integrity from you. It is the very bone structure of your willpower. When you are going through absolute hell, G asks you to evaluate your choices not by what is fast or expedient, but by what is fundamentally right. Making the righteous choice, especially when it hurts you in the short term, builds a psychological fortitude that makes you mentally unshakable in the long term. Then there is U, which translates to heroic courage. We often misunderstand courage. Courage is not the magical absence of fear, rather it is the triumph over it. The samurai knew fear intimately. To ride into a battlefield is to stare death in the face. U is not blind, stupid fearlessness. It is the deliberate act of stepping forward despite the overwhelming terror in your chest. In your modern adversity, heroic courage looks like physically opening that terrifying medical bill you've been ignoring. It looks like having that painfully honest, tearful conversation with a loved one. It looks like swallowing your pride and starting over from absolute scratch when you have lost everything you built. Your willpower is ignited the exact second you decide that your ultimate objective is simply more important than your immediate fear. The third virtue is Jin, or compassion and benevolence. Now, it may seem completely counterintuitive to link gentle compassion with the hardened willpower of a warrior, but listen to me closely. It is perhaps the most crucial element of all. A samurai wielding immense power without compassion is merely a butcher. When you are fighting your way through tremendous life obstacles, you will inevitably stumble. You will fail. You will experience days of profound, debilitating weakness where you just want to stay in bed. Jin requires you to extend immense grace and compassion to yourself. Beating yourself up for failing, calling yourself weak or stupid, only depletes the very psychological energy you desperately need to rise again. Self-compassion is not weakness, it is the high-octane fuel that recharges your willpower. Next is Rei, which is respect. A true warrior always bows to his opponent before a duel begins. This is not just some empty, polite pleasantry. It is a profound, necessary acknowledgement of the challenge ahead. To overcome your adversity, you must first respect it. Stop cursing the storm. Stop underestimating the difficulty of your situation. By respecting the massive obstacle in front of you, you remove the toxic emotional entitlement of thinking, "This shouldn't be happening to me. Life is unfair." You accept the cold, hard reality of the struggle, and that acceptance frees up massive amounts of mental energy that you can now focus entirely on the solution. The fifth virtue is Makoto, meaning complete sincerity and honesty. A samurai does not lie to others, but vastly more importantly, he never, ever lies to himself. Makoto means looking at your terrifying situation with brutal, unvarnished honesty. If your business is actively failing, look in the mirror and admit it. If a relationship is toxic and destroying your peace, name it out loud. False optimism is a fragile, useless shield that will shatter into 1,000 pieces under the heavy weight of reality. Willpower thrives exclusively on the truth. Only when you accurately assess the damage can you formulate a real, actionable strategy to rebuild your life. Then we have Meio, or honor. In our modern context, honor is not about public accolades. It is your internal scorecard. It is your reputation with yourself. When you go to sleep at night during a period of immense, agonizing struggle, Mayo is the quiet, persistent voice in your head that asks, "Did I give absolutely everything I had today?" You cannot always control the outcome of your struggles. Sometimes you will lose, but you maintain absolute control over the standard to which you hold yourself. Fighting with honor means that even in total defeat, your dignity remains completely intact, allowing you to wake up, rise, and fight another day. Finally, there is chugi, which is duty and loyalty. For the samurai, loyalty to their lord was paramount. For you, chugi is loyalty to your deeply held purpose, to your family, or to your future self. The philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche once wrote that he who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. When your willpower is fading, when the burden on your shoulders feels entirely too heavy to carry for even one more step, chugi shifts your focus outward. You realize you must endure the pain not just for yourself, but for those who love and depend on you. Duty transforms ordinary selfish stubbornness into an unbreakable, transcendent resolve. But overcoming adversity isn't just about surviving one moment. It requires mastering zanshin, the state of lingering awareness. In martial arts, zanshin is the focused posture maintained after a strike has been executed. A novice hits their target, drops their guard, turns around and celebrates prematurely. A master strikes and remains completely focused, physically and mentally ready for the opponent's counterattack. In life, we rarely face a single war. We face a series of relentless battles. You might overcome a severe health crisis, only to immediately face the financial toll it took. You might secure a great new job, only to struggle with a deeply toxic boss. Applying zanshin means avoiding the dangerous trap of complacency. It means remaining vigilant, highly adaptable, and emotionally prepared for the next wave, ensuring that a momentary victory today does not lead to a fatal defeat tomorrow. I want to leave you with one final image. Think about the violent, beautiful process of creating a samurai's katana. The raw, ugly steel is heated in a blazing, unforgiving furnace. It is hammered mercilessly by the blacksmith. It is folded upon itself and then plunged into freezing cold water. This extreme cycle of blistering heat, crushing pressure, and sudden cooling is exactly what gives the blade its legendary, mythical strength and its lethal flexibility. Human willpower is forged in exactly the same way. The adversities you are facing right now, the heartbreaks, the miserable failures, the suffocating grief, the constant rejections, they are not punishments from the universe. They are the hammer and the anvil. They are the furnace. Without the intense heat of the fire and the crushing heavy blows of the hammer, you will remain unformed, brittle iron. By applying the philosophy of Bushido, you stop viewing your adversity as an unfair, miserable curse, and you start seeing it as the very necessary process by which your true character is forged. So I ask you to embrace the heat, align yourself with integrity, step forward with heroic courage, and anchor your mind in an immovable calm. The modern world does not require us to carry swords of steel, but it desperately, urgently requires us to carry swords of character. When your sky darkens and the storms of life begin to howl around you, do not retreat. Ground your stance. Breathe deeply into the chaos. Draw your blade of willpower and step boldly into the fray.